Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and I will be predicting the stats for the Jets pass catchers in this video for this upcoming season. Before we get started today, I just wanted to mention that you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. And if you haven't already, please make sure to check out the Just Jets podcast. So where am I getting these numbers from? Well, if you missed the first video where I projected Zach Wilson numbers, just a quick refresher, I have him throwing for 4,026 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 350 completions. Those numbers are going to come into play in this video because, well, yards, touchdowns, and completions. And I'm going to be spreading it around between the wide receivers, the tight ends, the running backs, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to do my best to project what I think these players are going to do, and we're going to make the most of it. It's not going to be an easy thing, but let's jump right into it. And leading the way, we'll start wide receivers first, then get to tight ends, then get to running backs. So the leading Jets receiver, I think, is going to be Corey Davis. So I am projecting Corey Davis to have 70 receptions for 950 yards and 7 touchdowns. That's 13.57 yards per reception. Now, he is an ascending player in my eyes and someone who fits this Jets offense to a T. He is a great elite level run blocker, which that matters in this offense. He is really good with contested catches, and he just seems in all training camp long, just solid, steady, making plays. And sure, his numbers weren't gaudy per se in Tennessee, but he did have a really solid year last year with Brown, who is getting a majority of those targets. So I think we're going to see Corey Davis have a really solid year. Sure, it's not 1,000 yards, and I don't have any Jets wide receiver or tight end, spoiler alert, surpassing 1,000 yards, but I think we're going to see some decent production. And, as we continue to make our way down the list here, you'll see that. My second leading receiver on the Jets will be Elijah Moore, the rookie. Yes, I think he's going to play all over. I think he'll be outside. I think he'll be in the slot. And I think he'll be a big part of this New York Jets offense this year as a rookie in the second round there. I am buying into the hype. I think he's going to be really solid. So I'm going to say 65 receptions, 791 yards, 5 touchdowns for 12.17 yards per reception. That's a really solid rookie season. Yes, it's just a tad under 800 yards, but I would totally anticipate him taking that next step and the production numbers going up even more, especially when you consider that Jamison Crowder is not going to be on the roster. I think they're going to rely on some veterans early on, but then I think the Jets are going to transition and go with the youth a little bit, and you'll see more of that just here in a second in these projections. But a really solid rookie year. I will absolutely take 65 catches for 791 yards in a rookie year from Elijah Moore. That's solid to me. The third leading receiver on the Jets is going to be Denzel Mims. Now, I know it's a hot take for some because he's been working with the second team and the third team. So some people think, well, how is this guy going to get any kind of receiving numbers? Well, maybe he starts a little bit slow. They're working him back. But I think by year's end, he's going to be in this starting rotation for sure in this Jets wide receiver group. So I'm going to say 52 catches, 675 yards, 4 touchdowns, which is 12.98 yards per reception. I know it hasn't been a great training camp. He's not a bust. I know he doesn't create separation. He's not a great route runner per se, but he's a contested catch guy and a big red zone threat. And I think that's going to play a role, and I think his role is going to continue to develop as the year went on. He was too talented last year, put up 2 good numbers last year, and looked like he belonged too much on an awful team, the worst offense in football. So, yeah, I'm not worried about Denzel Mims. I'm sorry it doesn't fit the media's narrative, but I don't care. Next up, Jamison Crowder, and I really see his role diminishing here on this Jets team. I'm not even sure if he makes it all the way through the season with this Jets team. If they are out of things, I think they'll look to trade him at the deadline. So I'm going to say 31 receptions, 315 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's 10.16 yards per reception for Jamison Crowder. Again, I think he's probably going to start the year with a little bit more of a role, and then they're going to start to work the younger guys through. So yes, that's a significant downtick in production for him. And no, it's not necessarily saying that he's done or I don't like him. I just think his role is going to change on this team. I don't anticipate him being, the Jets' go-to guy, which really is what he was the last 2 years on this team. Keelan Cole, I have putting up pretty similar numbers, and I too think he is someone who's maybe going to start the year in a starting role and then eventually get transitioned towards the bottom of the depth chart. And the reason for it, he's on a 1-year deal. Yes, he's a pretty solid player, but I just don't think he is better than some of these guys in front of him here. So let's get into the numbers. I have him catching 27 passes for 296 yards and 2 touchdowns, 10.96 yards per reception. He's a good blocker. He's a good contested catch guy. I just don't think he's going to end the season as a starter for this team. He might be in that position right now, but I don't see that all the way through. The last receiver we'll talk about, Braxton Berrios. I gave him 5 catches for 46 yards, 9.2 yards per reception, and no touchdowns. I just think it's going to be hard for him or anyone else on this roster to really find a whole lot of receptions, especially if they stay healthy. So those are the 6 wide receivers that I am penciling in for receptions so far this year. Next up, we have tight end. So it looks like Chris Herndon is going to be the starter, and I think he's probably more talented and has a higher ceiling than Croft, and Croft is probably a better blocker, but I think Herndon's going to be the starter. So I have him with 41 catches, 418 yards, 10.2 yards per reception, and 4 touchdowns. I think it's a little bit of a resurgence. It's not quite what I was anticipating him to be in his NFL career, but I do think he takes a massive step forward. I thought last year was a little bit more of an outlier for him. I think he's more talented than when he showed, so I think he bounces back in a big way this year. As for Croft, I gave him 16 catches for 126 yards, no touchdowns, 7.88 yards per reception for him. As for the running backs, Michael Carter, Ty Johnson, Tevin Coleman, all 3 of those guys can catch passes, so I split it up relatively easily. I have Michael Carter getting some more receptions, though, at 22 for 217 yards and 1 touchdown. That's 9.86 yards per reception. Tevin Coleman, 15 for 143, 9.53, and a touchdown. Ty Johnson, 6 for 49, 8.17 yards per reception, 0 touchdowns. And really for all 3 of those guys, and I could talk about them all kind of at once, I think they're really going to rotate them around, and you'll see that when I do my rushing projections before the season starts. But I really think that those 3 are kind of going to be interchangeable, and Coleman probably is going to get the nod as a veteran to start, but I think he probably phases out as the year goes on, along with Jamison Crowder and Keelan Cole. So those are my projections. That equals out to 26 passing touchdowns, 350 completions, and 4,026 yards. Drop your predictions down below in the comments or get at me on social media. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.
Wow.